Hare Krishna, very dear devotees, welcome back once again to our ongoing series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nipishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, we are continuing with our series on the glories of Sri Vrindavan Dham. I was thinking this morning that the purpose of these series is actually to inform us and enlighten us where our real home is. There's that saying, there's no place like home. But that can only apply to the spiritual world. Because in this material world, any home is at best temporary. Therefore, we must become comfortable with the idea that our only real home is the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. There's a very beautiful verse I came across in my studies where we hear how Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is very comfortable with the idea that Vrindavan in the spiritual world is his home. He writes in his Stavavali, the section Sri Swaniyama Dashaka, it's text number 9. My food, a little of Braja's milk. My home, a leaf hut. And my actions, honest austerity and scriptural study. I shall live at Radhakund by the best of mountains and leave this world on the banks of that dear lake in the company of Srila Jiva Goswami and the other devotees. Wow. If we are able to attain that abode in this very lifetime, it's guaranteed we'll be free from all the anxieties and woes of material existence. And everyone has their story. This is actually confirmed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 2145. There Mahaprabhu says, it's very beautiful. Vrindavan Dham is very soft due to the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And it is especially opulent because of the mood of conjugal love that pervades every speck of the dust there. Vrindavan is glorious because the transcendental glories of the son of Maharaj Nanda are fully exhibited there. Under the circumstances, not the least anxiety ever arises in the heart of a true Brajavasi. And hopefully through this lecture series, our hearts will become softened and awakened to pure love for the divine couple. The Islamic poet, Ali ibn Abi Talib, wrote something interesting about this waking the soul up with love. I found this verse the other day. He wrote, the body is purified by water, the false ego through tears, the intellect through knowledge, and the soul through divine love. And the soul through divine love. Yes, it's a big challenge, huge challenge, but Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur encourages us, even in our fallen state, you could say our aspiring state, to aspire for that lofty goal. How? By being strict in our vows and chanting the holy names. In fact, he writes in the final verse of a Sri Sankalpa Kalpadruma. This is very nice also. Giving up all desires, worship Vrindavan, the bestower of prema. If you do not have a taste for the rasa of the ocean, of pastimes of Radha and Krishna, at least do not give up the desire for it. O faithless inclinations of my heart, always take shelter of the desire tree of vows. Of the desire tree of vows. Hare Krishna. So we are continuing with our mini-series on Stimulation for Ecstatic Love. And this will be part 46. Soon we'll hit 50. And this will be our final lecture on Braj Renu, the sacred dust of Vrindavan. I really enjoyed this, discussing Braj Renu. As we've quoted many verses about the glories of Braj Renu in the past 4 lectures, I'd like to share 2 beautiful pastimes today on this particular subject. And the first pastime is given by the Brajabasi poet Shri Bhatt. I gave his history in a previous class. Very illustrious Brajabasi poet, Shri Bhatt. In his poetry, and it relates how the dust of Vrindavan once served as a messenger between the divine couple, Radha and Krishna. Now, some months back, we gave a series of lectures, you may remember, on the birds of Vrindavan. And in that series, we discussed how those birds, they often carry messages between the Lord, the gopis, and the divine couple. They do it by placing a rolled letter in a kapacha around their necks, and then they fly to their destination. And sometimes, I was reading also, sometimes messages are written on their feathers. So when they get to where they're going, the person who's receiving the message, they just read the message on the feathers of the birds. Or sometimes they even recite the messages themselves upon meeting the person for whom the message is being sent. But on one very special occasion, the dust of Braj acted as a messenger, delivering a message from Sri Radha to Krishna and Krishna to Sri Radha. Now, this really beautiful pastime actually happened when Krishna was preparing to leave Vrindavan with his brother Balaram on the invitation of Kamsa to fight with the wrestlers Chanura and Mushtika in Mathura. Usually we speak of Krishna when he's in Vrindavan, but we don't hear much about when Krishna is winding up his playful pastimes with the Brajabasis and is getting ready to go to Mathura. Of course, every part of the Lord's pastimes are glorious and blissful to hear. His coming into the world is glorious. We recently celebrated Janmashtami. His pastimes on the playground of Braja are glorious. His residence in Vrindavan is glorious. And his leaving from Braja is also glorious as well. Why? His leaving is glorious because he's departing in Akrura's chariot. As he departs in Akrura's chariot, we witness the deepest sentiment of love, Vipalamba Bhav, in the broken hearts of the gopis. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:39-17 reveals the gopis' broken hearts, which ultimately increase their love for Krishna. That verse says as follows: the gopis were frightened at the prospect of even the briefest separation from Lord Mukunda. So now as they remembered his graceful gait, his pastimes, his affectionate smiling glances, his heroic deeds, and his joking words, which would relieve their distress, they were beside themselves with anxiety at the thought of the great separation about to come. They gathered in groups and spoke to one another, their faces covered with tears and their minds fully absorbed in Achyuta. Wow. So, what to speak of the gopis? All the residents of Vrindavan were suddenly overwhelmed with, we could say, transcendental anxiety and fear. The cows stopped running and they stood motionless in the fields. Oh, Krishna's going? Small children stopped playing and became morose. The older cowherd boys lost interest in wrestling and herding cows. Mother Yasoda and Maharaj Nanda woke up at night with tears in their eyes. And I was reading, the Vrindavan forest itself appeared dull and unpleasant. Wow. The Vrindavan forest itself appeared dull and unpleasant. Now it's described that no gopi dared to speak on this topic to Sri Radha. But Sri Radha knew everything. She knew everything. As a result, she herself lost interest in decorating herself, playing games, singing songs, and roaming around Braj with her milkmaid friends. It's described she simply sat in her palace and continuously stared at beautiful paintings of Krishna. This is what she did. She simply sat in her palace and continuously stared at beautiful paintings of Krishna. The palace was filled with paintings of Krishna in different poses and in different places. Krishna could be seen depicted wandering in a forest, dancing, stealing butter, lifting Govardhan Hill, wrestling, boating, swimming, playing his Venu, and herding cows. And such paintings were painted on walls. It's described windows, gates, ceilings, actually in every inch of the palace. And as such, the palace was known as Swapna Vilasa. Swapna Vilasa, the palace of relishing dreams. I love that. The palace of relishing dreams. Sri Radha's condition was such that she was so much lost in the pastimes of Krishna, she was not able to move. She simply laid down on her bed. And at one point, Lalita Sakhi and several gopis entered her chamber. And when they did, Sri Radha looked up at them and said, "My beautiful friends, welcome to my palace. Please rest on these asanas and tell me about the reason of your visit." So Lalita Sakhi, she replied, "Sri Radha, Krishna wants to see you on the shores of the Jamuna." Krishna wants to see you on the shores of the Jamuna, and we've come here to decorate you for that meeting. So then Lalita and all the gopis, they helped Srimati Radharani get up, and they started decorating her. Our poet explains that every day Sri Radha's gopis, they dance, they sing, they giggle. They giggle and they laugh while they're decorating Sri Radha. But that day was a little different. Krishna was going to leave. And all the gopis were so absorbed in thoughts of Krishna leaving Vrindavan, it's described the whole room was silent. You know, the girls weren't chattering and giggling and laughing. Silence. It's mentioned even their nupurs, their bells and anklets, were not making any sounds. The only sound was Sri Radha's heavy sighs, reverberating throughout the room. And every time the gopis tried to place mascara on Sri Radha's eyes, it would immediately be washed away by the constant flow of her tears with the imminent departure of Krishna to Mathura. Therefore, unable to fix that mascara properly, for the very first time ever, they left the eyes of Sri Radha, which are described as naturally dark and beautiful, abandoned without any extra decoration. That's how the poet puts it. Her eyes were abandoned without any extra decoration. Brajbaz poetry. So then Sri Radha left with her friends to the sacred banks of the Jamuna, where she sat on a large stone, and soon after Krishna arrived. And sitting on the stone beside her, he started glorifying her beauty. But at one point, Sri Radha stopped him and she said, "Krishna, today I will glorify your beauty." So Krishna just smiled and said, "Dear one, whatever you desire." So Sri Radha touched Krishna's chin and started praising the Supreme Lord, quote unquote, the Supreme Lord, for making Krishna breathtakingly beautiful. And then she went on to glorify every limb of Krishna. And after some time, Krishna said, "Dear Sri Radha," now he's very slowly he's speaking, I've been thinking how often you become upset with my love for my flute. You know, I love my flute so much, so sometimes you become a little jealous. Therefore, I want to give my flute to you today, so you won't get distracted by my playing it. It's the last gift he's giving Sri Radha before going. So at that point, Sri Radha took Krishna's flute in her hands, and she just sat there staring at it. It's described without even blinking. Then, very slowly, Krishna said, "My dear Shri Radha," and then tears formed in his eyes. "Tomorrow I am going with the Kura to Mathura. Tomorrow I am going with the Kura to Mathura." And being reminded of this very sad news, Shri Radha placed her lotus feet in the dust and with tears in her eyes started drawing in the dust with one of her toenails, writing her final messages of love. She wrote, "O Krishna, you are the bliss of my eyes. You will be going to the city of King Kamsa, where gold-dwelling palaces are located." Remember, she's writing this with her lotus toe in the dust. The dust is a messenger here. "The sounds of running horses and carts will steal away your heart from the sounds of the running cows of Braj. The queens there wear splendid robes, not the tattered clothes we gopis of Braj wear. From now on you will dwell in the magnificent palaces of opulence and forget all about the vines and groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. The same Yamuna flows in Mathura, but her currents there are different. The sky there is the same, but the winds there flow differently. O Krishna, you will be there, but your flute will be here. You can go to Mathura, but I will only meet you there in my next birth." All this she wrote with her toe in the dust. Startled, Krishna wrote in the dust with his toe, "Shri Radha, why in the next life?" Then replying with her toe in Braj-Renu, Shri Radha wrote, "My dear Krishna, as soon as you step out of Braj, my body will remain here, but I will die and take a new birth there in Mathura to meet you. I never liked Mathura, but from this point on, my heart will stay there. Mathura is full of nothing, but because you will be there, my heart will also reside with you there." And suddenly, looking at the dust engraved with their dialogue, the sky started crying. Everything in Vrindavan is personal. Everything's personal. Well, looking at the dust engraved with their dialogue, the sky started crying, and heavy rain started falling, resulting in their messages mixing with the sacred dust of Vrindavan and finally flowing into the Jamuna River. Whew. And as the rain continued to pour down on the divine couple, they became soaked, and they ran together to stand under a kadamba tree. And there they stood, gazing at each other's eyes. And our poet writes, "Oh, when will my eyes attain the sight of Shri Radha's colorful veil and the enchanter Shri Krishna's scarf soaked in the rain?" The divine couple were standing under a kadamba tree, trying not to get wet, but the clouds were blowing from all four directions. I offer my obeisances to the aroma of the dust of Braj, which is revealing the untold beautiful pastimes to those who take shelter of it. That dust which rests upon the head of Lord Shiva and sleeps on the crown of King Indra is the asset of the saints and a source of bliss for all devotees. It is also present on the forehead of the four-headed Brahma. I pray again and again to that dust of Vrindavan, which is rare and worshipped by me by the grace of my Guru. I pray again and again to that dust of Braja, which is rare and worshipped by me by the grace of my Gurudev. Such nectar. And finally, I actually don't want this little series to finish because it's just been so nectar speaking about little particles of dust. One particle of dust of Vrindavan is more valuable than all the opulence of Vaikuntha. So finally, a brief pastime, this time described by our poet Lalit Kishore. I've many times quoted him. I wished I could meet him. It's entitled Choti Bandhan Leela. Choti Bandhan Leela. It means literally the pastime of binding seekers. Wow, what's that? That must be really interesting. So let's go. It's another one of the many, actually, tax pastimes. There's not just one tax pastime. These tax pastimes, for some reason, they happen all over Vrindavan because they're opportunities for Radha and Krishna to meet, sambhog. Because all too often, Vipralambha, they're separated. So as the gopis wander throughout Braj with their milk products to sell in the local markets, the boys set up a little tax stand there, and this pastime happens again and again in a variety of ways. However, this tax pastime has an interesting twist, wherein Sri Radha and her gopi friends end up taxing Krishna and his cowherd friends. It's the opposite. Usually Krishna's taxing the girls. Now the girls are going to tax Krishna and his friends. So how is that? So one day Krishna thought, every day me and my friends, we herd cows in different forests while killing demons sent by Kamsa. So Krishna, he thought, according to the laws of justice, I'm the king and all the cowherd boys are my servants. So to establish my rule over Braja, I would become the tax collector. Madhu Mangal will be my royal advisor because he hails from a Brahminical family of priests. Subal will be the scholar and minister of peace. Sridham, the minister of love. Vishal, the minister of war and weapons. And Stoka, the chief of cowherd business. And we will give all our accounts to my elder brother, Baladev. Now, due to the special powers invested in me by Purnamasi, I can smell the sin of what is happening in the forest of Vrindavan. All the boys were shocked. Krishna said, now due to the special powers invested in me by Purnamasi, Yogamaya, I can smell the sin of what is happening in the forest of Vrindavan. So startled, Madhu Mangal asked, Krishna, is there a place of sin in Braj? And Subal added, Krishna, I heard from sages that sin doesn't exist in Braj. Then Balaram rose and said, boys, listen carefully. Once there was a big war between the king of sin, known as Mahapataki, and Punya Atma, meaning the most pious Brahmana ever. A war. The fight went on for ages with no conclusion. So one day, all the demigods went to Lord Shiva and they asked for help because the fighting was causing so much disturbance in the land of Braj. How can there be disturbance? Well, the demons also come, but it ends up in a pastime. Krishna kills them. So at that point, Lord Shiva suggested that there be a short fight of just a few minutes between Mahapataki and Punya Atma, and whosoever is victorious will be the winner of the great war. The war will be over. So to make a long story short, Punya Atma won the fight. Good always conquers over evil. One of the verses of Bhagavad Gita. He won the fight against Mahapataki. And from that day on, Mahapataki promised never to come back to Braj. But then Krishna spoke up and said, yes, but now he, meaning Mahapataki, now he has secretly sent his Guptachara agents. Guptachara agents here. So Sridham asked, Krishna, what are Guptachara agents who are causing some disturbance? Krishna smiled and said, the cowherd girls, the gopis of Braj. Because they're wandering around Vrindavan, selling their cow products, and they're not paying any royal tax. They're devious. They're bad. They're not paying any tax. All the boys laughed. Here we go again. Krishna said, I say, let's all go and collect that tax from them. So hearing this, all the gopas, all the cowherd boys, they became very excited. And after, it's described, playfully, donning like royal coats and robes and official staffs, they all proceeded in a big group to Varshana, where Varshana Rani, the queen of Vrindavan, lives, with their girlfriends. And at that point, when they arrived, Sri Radha and her girlfriends were coming down the hill with pots of ghee and butter to sell throughout Braj Mandala. So our poet says, it's very beautiful. Covered with the delicate shawl of shyness, Sri Radha appeared as the personified form of all beauty, while leaving the mood of worldliness behind her with every step. Wow. While leaving the mood of worldliness behind her with every step. Now Krishna, he came with a particular purpose, but he became mesmerized by looking at the glowing face of Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radhika, coming down, he describes, from the fort of opulence, Varshana, from the fort of opulence, to the foothills of playful pastimes of love. That's poetry. Coming down from the fort of opulence to the foothills of playful pastimes of love. But then suddenly, he barricaded Radha and the gopis' path with big sticks and boulders. Then he said to them, "Oh, you foolish ladies of Varshana, to cross this boundary that I've created here, you have to pay a royal tax." Now hearing this, all the gopis immediately started, fighting with the boys, wrestling and, "Oh, get out of our way." But while that was happening, Radha and Krishna stood silently, just gazing into each other's eyes. Shri Brajabhumi, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. But soon Shri Radha's meditation broke. And she told Lalita, "Tie up this Krishna and all the boys, for they have offended Rajkanya." Rajkanya, when I came across that, like, who's Rajkanya? Meaning her, the daughter of the royal king, Maharaj Vrishabhanu. Rajkanya, it'd be a beautiful name for a girl, Rajkanya. What was the offense? By placing the barrier in her way. So all the gopis, they started hitting the boys with branches of specifically kadamba trees. And then what? They bound their sikas to the trees, making the boys cry. It's the name of this pastime. They bound the boys, of long sikas, tied their sikas to the trees, making the boys cry. So pleading at the lotus feet of Sri Radha, the boy said, "O Queen of Braj, please release us. We're all innocent. This was all planned by mischievous Krishna. He made us do this. Please show us your beautiful feature of mercy." We also pray to Srimati Radharani like that. Please show us your beautiful feature of mercy. But Lalita, it's described, who is famous beyond the three worlds for her cleverness, replied, "Boys, now that all of you have come to the boundary of the royal premises, you must pay us a tax. You have to pay the tax. Otherwise, no mercy can save you." Otherwise, no mercy can save you. So, Madhumanga replied, these are all Kali, playful pastimes. "O glorious Lalita, you are glowing like the sun and flowing like the Ganga." Wow. "You are glowing like the sun and flowing like the Ganga. Please do not do this to a poor Brahmin boy like me." So then Lalita said, "O one with a fat belly, do not teach me the knowledge of your false Purana, which is filled with stories of Vladus and Kichoris. It will be better for you to become the gardener of our queen's garden. And leave the association of this Krishna, who never goes to Gurukul, but instead plays all day. Who never goes to Gurukul, just plays all day. Just, you're Krishna." So then, all tied up, Subal peacefully requested, "Dear Lalita, can we ask what dan or charity or tax does your queen want from us? What tax do we have to pay?" So Sri Radha, she replied, gold, jewels, silken robes, and the promise that you boys will never stop us on our paths anywhere in Braj again. So Subal, he looked at Krishna. Krishna, you have to reply. So Krishna said, O Queen of Braj, please bless all of us with your merciful glance. We only have the dust of Braj, which is like gold and sapphires to us, and which gives us bliss and great strength. We are born in this dust, we play in this dust, and we get lost in this dust. My favorite part. We are born in this dust, we play in this dust, and we get lost in this dust. Great sages meditate in the lap of this dust, and princes of all kingdoms offer respects to this dust. O Radhe, we can each give you a handful of this sacred dust of Braj, which is our only source of pleasure and happiness. Hare Krishna. Please accept it as a small yet priceless dhan and free us from the clutches of your ropes of anger and punishment. I promise we will never tax you again. So, hearing these sweet words from the divine mouth of Sri Krishna, the heart of Sri Radha melted, and she immediately freed everyone. So compassionate. At that point, all the cowherd boys came forward and showered the divine couple with the dust of Braj, mixed with fragrant flowers. Our poet, Lalit Kishore, he prays, the beautiful moon-like pair of Braj always reside in the sky of Braj, distributing the moon rays of their pastimes on the thirsty souls of Rasikas. The beautiful moon-like pair of Braja always reside in the sky of Braja, distributing the moon rays of their pastimes on the thirsty souls of Rasikas, those who hanker for a loving relationship with Radha and Krishna. Wow. This is a rather long class because, I found a little bit more this morning before I started, so we'll go on. Another beautiful tradition that involves dust, I read this, is practiced by the Wakari Sampradaya. Wakari Sampradaya are the devotees of Lord Vitthal, famous deity in South India. That's the name of their Sampradaya, devotees of Lord Vitthal. Predominantly that Sampradaya is residing in Maharashtra, India. And the Saint Tukaram, who actually took initiation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was from this tradition. So again, their worshipable deity is Lord Vitthal, who resides in the city of Pandharpur. He's a form of Krishna standing on a brick, waiting for his devotee. I went there and saw this deity, very famous deity. He's Krishna, but he's standing on a brick. This is his bhav, this is his mood. He's standing on a brick waiting for his devotee. And when you take darshan of Lord Vitthal, you see a unique style of tilak. There's a round, flat layer of chandan on Lord Vithal's forehead, which tapers down to a thin line, which comes down to his nose. And interestingly enough, in the center of his tilak is a black dot. And I always wondered, I had darshan 3 times at this deity. ISKCON has a big temple actually in Pandharpur. And I saw this black dot in this tilak. What is that? I can never figure it out, but seek and ye shall find. This morning I found out that those in that sampradaya mentioned a beautiful reason why the Lord has that black dot on his tilak. They say that the Lord thinks in the following manner, because millions of devotees go to see Lord Vitthal. So Lord Vitthal, he's thinking, why do my devotees have to wait in such a long line to see me? Why do my devotees have to wait in such a long line to see me? I am eager to see my devotees It's unfair that they have to wait to see me. To make up for this unjust treatment, I shall take the dust of those devotees' feet on my forehead every day. I shall take the dust of those devotees on my forehead every day. So every day, actually, the priests of that temple, the pujaris, they sweep the floor where the devotees have waited in line for the Lord and mix that dust with the holy water of the Chandabhaga River. It's a beautiful big river that flows in Pandharpur. They mix that black dust with the holy water of the Chandabhaga River and make it into a substance like we do tilak. So it comes like a grayish black color that they apply on the Lord's forehead every morning after dressing him. Such a beautiful reciprocation of the Lord with his devotees. Love is reciprocal. And as much as we love Krishna, Krishna will love us. So we want to love him like everything, so he'll love us like everything. That's rasa. Krishna also mentions taking the dust of his devotees on his body in Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam, the king of all scriptures. I found this verse, 11th canto, 14th chapter, text number 16. Famous. Krishna says, with the dust of my devotees' lotus feet, I desire to purify the material worlds, which are situated within me. Thus I always follow the footsteps of my pure devotees, who are free from all material desire, wrapped in thoughts of my pastimes, peaceful, without feelings of enmity, and of equal disposition everywhere. Krishna is glorifying his devotees. Prabhus, with that beautiful description, we will finish our 5 lectures on Braj-Renu, the sacred dust of Vrindavan. Thank you so much for being with us, and we're still in that mini-series, Stimulation for Ecstatic Love, so we'll find something this week and share it with you. It will be as equally beautiful and relishable as is everything in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Prabhupada, the revealer of the Dham. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki, Braj-Renu ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yajna ki, Transcendental Book Distribution ki. Make the whole world our devotees and take them back home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Jai Jai Sisi Radhe Sham Braj-Renu ki.